The following message is brought to you by Nonsensical News Incorporated. This week's program concerns discussions around Ozempic. Many people believe Ozempic is a weight loss drug when in fact it is a treatment for type 2 diabetes. This week's program dives into the topic of how Ozempic is represented on social media and the ethical and health implications of its representation as a weight loss drug. It will also focus on the legal safeguards currently present to restrict this misrepresentation, as well as its limitations in addressing all Ozempic-related videos on social media.
Welcome to Nonsensical News. This just in, celebrity and comedian Amy Schumer finally opens up about her experience with Ozempic. Amy Schumer, a comedian well known to use her appearance and large body size to fuel much of her comedic content, finally turns to Ozempic and loses all of that weight. To be fair, she has opened up about her health condition, which has caused her to gain weight, and now she has talked about using Ozempic to lose all of that weight and keep her health condition in control. However, this does bring up a lot of questions, such as, why did Amy Schumer use Ozempic, a drug that's meant for diabetes treatment, to lose all of that weight? Was this really the best choice? What kind of message was she sending by using Ozempic specifically, if any? What does this mean for her viewers and audience who idolize her? And will this story contribute to the ongoing Ozempic craze on social media? In today's session of Nonsensical News, we are going to be talking about Ozempic and its representation on social media. But first, let's turn to our resident scientist to tell us more about exactly what Ozempic is.
Well, hello there, everybody. I am Scientist Shelly, and today I'm going to be telling you a little bit about Ozempic. A lot of people think that Ozempic is a weight loss drug because that's what they see on social media, but the truth is, Ozempic was actually made to treat type 2 diabetes. Yes, Ozempic is a diabetes medication. It's not for weight loss. Weight loss is only a side effect of Ozempic. Basically, taking Ozempic for weight loss is like taking cough syrup to help you sleep better. Drowsiness and sleepiness is a side effect of cough syrup, but it was actually made to help you treat your coughs. While it's obvious what cough syrup was made to do because it's in the name, cough syrup, it's a little less obvious what Ozempic really does because it has such a weird name, and this weird name is usually associated with weight loss on social media. Tell me more. So basically, Ozempic consists of a chemical called semaglutide. And this semaglutide pretends or mimics the actions of a hormone called GLP-1. Basically, what happens when you eat food, your blood sugar increases. And in order to counteract that blood sugar increase, GLP-1 is released by the body, which causes an increase in insulin production. When the amount of insulin in the body increases, it lowers the blood sugar and returns it back to a normal state. In people with type 2 diabetes, usually the amount of insulin produced is not enough to lower the blood sugar down to a normal level. So they take semaglutide or Ozempic that mimics GLP-1 and increases the amount of insulin so there is enough insulin to lower their blood glucose to a normal level.
But if this was made for diabetes, what does Ozempic have to do with weight loss?
Well, in order for the semaglutide to increase the amount of insulin production, it keeps the food in the stomach for longer and slows down the emptying of the stomach. And because of the slowing down of the emptying of the stomach, it results in the person feeling full for a longer time, decreasing their appetite, which often results in weight loss because they don't eat as much as they used to. And after this news about people using Ozempic to lose weight came out, Big Pharma did not waste a single second and took advantage of this money-making opportunity. they soon came out with another drug called Wegovy. It's the same drug, does the exact same thing as Ozempic, just under a different name, and specifically FDA approved for weight loss. But people still continue to take Ozempic off-label for their weight loss. And social media fuels this off-label use through content that focuses specifically on the weight loss effects of Ozempic without any regard for the diabetes aspect. In the social media world, there is a plethora of videos talking about the weight loss effects and the miracle effect of Ozempic, which leaves little room for discussion about the actual intended use of the drug, its side effects, and the risks associated with the off-label use of this drug.
To talk about Ozempic representation on social media and the ethical concerns surrounding it, today we have a panel of expert guests with us. This includes law student Shaylee, social media influencer Shaylee, and health science student Shaylee. Why don't we start by hearing from health science student Shaylee first?
And there is a big issue with the possibilities of misinformation and misrepresentation of Ozempic on social media, specifically when people do post content, even if it's just their experiences with Ozempic, they're not providing the full story about what Ozempic is and what it does and how it works, because honestly, they themselves may not know all of the details. But the thing is, when this kind of information goes out to the viewers without the full information, without all of the proper information, it leads them to make decisions about their health and about their lives, which may not be well informed. Okay, but hold on. It's not like we're lying to people. Not all of us, anyways. But still, from my experience as a social media influencer, people online are just trying to speak their truth and tell others what they've been through. And it's not like people are pushing them to use Ozempic. I don't think talking about what you've been through and your own experiences is illegal or immoral or anything. Like, why don't you rag on the friggin' TV ads? They're trying to get people to buy Ozempic. Like, why don't you talk about that, huh? I'm glad you actually brought up the topic of TV advertisements, and you're right, TV advertisements often do contribute to the misunderstandings around Ozempic. However, these misunderstandings are then supported by social media videos out there. So basically, TV advertisers have a lot of power with direct-to-consumer advertising now, which allows companies and advertisers to directly promote the use of Ozempic to the public. And they take advantage of something called the Reminder Act, which, according to Health Canada, allows advertisers to put out advertisements without referencing specifically what diseases that this drug targets, because they assume that viewers are already aware of what this drug does. So basically what happens is that advertisers use audio and video devices and manipulate them to make people think that Ozempic is this kind of miracle drug, without telling them exactly what kind of miracles this drug will produce. And when you combine this with viewers who are viewing this ad without previous knowledge that Ozempic is in fact a diabetes treatment, and all they know about Ozempic is from social media videos that say that Ozempic is a weight loss drug, it's safe to assume that these viewers are going to watch these ads and immediately think that the miracles that these advertisers are talking about are associated with weight loss rather than for diabetes. That sounds like a pretty big risk for people who want to use Ozempic, doesn't it? There's got to be some kind of consequences of that. Well, of course, with the promotion of Ozempic on social media, it's been gaining more exposure and traction. Basically, more people are finding out about Ozempic and its weight loss effects, and this results in an increased demand for this drug. And this increased demand translates to a shortage of drug supplies, because now this drug is supplying two groups of people. One, people who have type 2 diabetes, and two, people who want to access this drug for the off-label use of it for their weight loss. And another thing is the price of Ozempic. So when people access Ozempic for off-label use of it, for weight loss specifically, their insurance doesn't cover this medication. So people are paying out of pocket to access Ozempic for their weight loss. And trust me when I say Ozempic is not cheap. It's about $900 for one injection without insurance.
I would like to add that there are health consequences associated with the off-label use of Ozempic as well. First of all, the weight loss that happens when a person goes on Ozempic is not permanent. It only lasts as long as you take the Ozempic. So if you want to have that lost weight, you basically have to take Ozempic for the rest of your life. There have been many instances where people go off of Ozempic and then they gain that weight back that they had previously lost. Also, it's very important to note that because Ozempic causes changes in appetite, it can alter a person's eating behaviors, which can also increase the risk of eating disorders. And finally, like all other medications, there are many side effects associated with Ozempic, such as nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, constipation, and abdominal discomfort.
Okay, that was a lot of consequences. Yeah.
Are you sure this is legal?
Yo guys, did you see this? Apparently Kim Kardashian came out with new diet pills. It's like Ozempic, but a lot cheaper. Damn, that has a lot of views.
Is that legal? Well, I don't know about the legal consequences, but I do know that as a safety concern, it looks like the Kim Kardashian's family is also profiting off of this Ozempic craze. That's another thing. You see, the popularization of Ozempic on social media has also resulted in an increase in compounded versions of Ozempic coming around, which, by the way, are unregulated and cause for concern. So don't get on those ones. Don't do your research before you even think about going on these compounded versions of the original Ozempic. So yeah, be careful out there.
And the list gets longer. Okay, why don't we move on from this now? Actually, go on. Another thing with this representation of Ozempic on social media is that it sends the image that there is something defective with larger bodies and that they're a problem that needs fixing with drugs. By promoting Ozempic as a miracle drug, viewers basically get the message that their bodies need a miracle to change them and that their bodies need changing in the first place. And since it is a medication, it is also associated with health, which sends the message that larger bodies are unhealthy and they require a pharmacological solution like Ozempic to become skinny and healthy again.
Wow. You know what? Why don't we all switch gears here for a second and talk about what could possibly be done about the misrepresentation and misinformation that causes consequences for the audience and viewers?
Well, there are many existing laws that can apply to this topic and restrict the spread of misinformation on social media, but they are limited to specific circumstances. For example, you can technically possibly restrict the freedom of speech of certain individuals on social media to prevent the spread of misinformation about Ozempic.
Hey, you can't do that. It's literally a charter right, freedom of speech. Like, you can't just take people's rights away. That's illegal.
True, but if the harm caused by the content is large enough, such as health consequences for the viewers, there are possible grounds to justify this violation of rights. Once again, this depends on whether the rights violation is justified, depending on how much harm is caused. The only issue with this topic is you can't be sure about whether there will be harm caused or how much harm will be caused by all of the videos out there on Ozempic. So even if you do try to apply this law, it would not be generalizable to social media and Ozempic content in general.
Well, there's gotta be something else, right?
There's also the criminal code, on false information online, which basically states that a person is liable under this code if they spread false information with the intention of causing harm or injury to another person. And this includes information that is spread online through social media as well. But the limitation with this is that the person would need to intentionally have caused harm to the viewers. And as you've mentioned before, that intention is not always there. Sometimes people online are just sharing their own experiences or are trying to provide advice in a helpful way. See, your stupid laws can't do anything. That's what I've been trying to say. People online like us, we're not trying to hurt anybody. We're just trying to speak our truth. And that's where law meets its limitations. Sometimes the consequences of this misinformation and misrepresentation of Ozempic on social media is nobody's fault per se. It's partially on the person who spreads the information for spreading this kind of information without context, without considering the interpretations, and without doing proper research on Ozempic. And sometimes it's partially on the audience for interpreting this information in the way that they do and acting on it in the way that they do. Take Amy Schumer's story, for example. In Amy Schumer's case, she only talked about her experiences about Ozempic, her negative and positives, without possibly any intention of promoting Ozempic specifically for weight loss. However, because she did use Ozempic for weight loss, at the end of the day, some audience and viewers may view this as a possible solution for obesity and for weight loss. Because Amy Schumer used it for weight loss, so maybe I should try using it for weight loss. It's not necessarily Amy Schumer's fault. She didn't try to actively promote the use of Ozempic. And it's not necessarily the audience's fault, because to be fair, they didn't have all of the information from this one story to make an informed decision.
So, is there anything that we can do legally right now?
And so at this point in time, there are possible legal actions that one can take to mitigate the consequences of this kind of misrepresentation on social media, but there are limitations with the current laws in place, and they may only apply to specific circumstances of misrepresentation of Ozempic and not cover the whole general topic of the representation of Ozempic on social media. Well, folks, you heard it here first. Content about Ozempic on social media can range anywhere from complete bullpoop to 100% facts. So if you ever come across Ozempic content on your social media, remember to double, triple, quadruple check that information before you fall for it. Don't fall victim to the misrepresentation and misinformation about Ozempic online. Stay educated on what it really does and how it works. Also, don't buy those Kim Kardashian diet pills. Just don't. That's just common sense. So, stay safe and stay informed. Have a good night.